Streaming live via the internet, welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, fixed wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies Incorporated provides the lowest priced Mikrotik products in North America, as well as Wade Towers, Mimosa, Cambium, Ubiquity, Nettonics, and a host of other products and services to be your one-stop shop for your ISP needs. Visit www.linktechs.net. That's linktechs.net for more information. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps with website integration. Stop rolling your trucks for every site survey and start doing installations. Visit www.towercoverage.com now. And now we'd like to present our hosts, Steve Graybiel and Dennis Burgess. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of ISP Radio. I am Dennis Burgess with linktechs.net and Link Technologies Incorporated. Stephen Graybiel has, I guess he has the day off. He is busy doing network work, and it's just me. We did not have any guests today. So I kind of put together a quick little session on Ubiquity's new AirFiber version 4 software. That is their version 4 for their AirFiber product, as well as Mikrotik Sync. And we're also going to talk about uptimes. What is 3 nines? What is 2 nines? What is 5 nines? Etc., etc., so that everybody understands really where those numbers come from and how they all work together, etc. So let's dive right into it. So recently, Ubiquity released their Ubiquity AirFiber version 4 software, and fortunately, they finally added the actual carrier Ethernet or Ethernet carrier drop feature. This is probably one of the best things about the version 4 software, and obviously there's probably several other good things about it. They mentioned several other things, but that was really the only thing that I really needed, especially in many network configurations. What we have is we have AirFiber 24s, and for most of you know that AirFiber 24s, they're very reliable products. They work extremely well, but the problem is especially if you get really over 2 miles or so, especially in the Midwest, we get rain fade. And that rain fade will drop the link completely out. So if you have a good quality link and all of a sudden you don't have a whole lot of signal due to rain fade, then the link drops. So I'm going to put up on the screen a AirFiber that we've recently upgraded to version 4. This is the AirFiber version 4 software, and this is running on version an AirFiber 24. It's not a high-end or the HD version. It's just the original the original version. And as you can see, we're modulated to 774 over 770. Can't really ask for anything. Now, it's a pretty sunny day. There's really not a whole lot of data moving through it. We don't have a whole lot of issues. We have this chain imbalance, 1 to 0. Excellent job on the interface. It looks really nice. Note that we're moving about 107 and then about 10 meg on the upstream. So it's not really hurting this. But the big thing in this particular route, this particular device, is the Ethernet carrier drop features. And I'm going to bring over another screen here. And this is how to use the Ethernet carrier drop in AirOS Fiber version 4. And it kind of goes over everything that you really need to understand. But let's take a look at that. So we're going to hit settings and we're going to hit network here. And basically what we have here is, in this particular case, we use in-band management. I would always recommend to use out-of-band management if the product has a out-of-band management interface. But in this particular case, we don't, so we just use in-band. And this does have out-of-band management, but we don't have that cable hooked up, so again, we have to use in-band. What we do here is we use a pulse. Now, this is really the big thing, is that as bandwidth capacity drops as the network, as rain starts affecting it. So as bandwidth capacity starts dropping, it starts dropping. Eventually it gets to a point at which we have another link, in this case a Mimosa B5C, that can do 200 meg. The problem is that originally in the version 2 and the version 3 software, there was no way to actually specify at which point does that carrier drop. Does the Ethernet port actually disable and re-enable so that we get an OSPF state change? The whole goal of this is to stay up and running. That's really the goal of the AirFiber 24 and this particular link. And this link is not a long one. It's what, 3.368 miles? It's long for an AirFiber 24, but it's not long for a B5C with 2-foot or 3-foot dishes. It's a really good link with that. So like I said, we get 200 meg out of that. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to basically state that once the Ethernet port or once the wireless interface drops that link, once it gets to that certain point, all of a sudden we need to drop our OSPF connection on this link and fail over to the existing Mimosa link that we already have. Then, on the flip side of that, this is actually the hard part. On the flip side of that, we actually want to not bring up that link. So again, if it's modulated down to 20 meg or 4 meg or 30 meg or 100 meg, it doesn't matter. We do not want data to pass on top of that. So what Ubiquiti did is they've added this Ethernet carrier drop settings. And we have a TX low, RX low, TX high, and RX high thresholds. And then we have these threshold timers. Now these are really, really good because these give us a really good sense of what we need to keep everybody running, okay? So with that said, what we have here is we have a TX capacity low of 150 and RX capacity threshold of 150. And then we have a low threshold timer of 5 seconds. So basically, the RX and TX need to fall below 150. Once it falls below 150, we wait 5 seconds before we do anything. Then we use a pulse, okay? That basically drops the Ethernet interface on both sides of the link, and that will drop it for 5 seconds. Block data after pulse basically blocks data, such as OSPF packets, from flowing through the link until our first session validation timer comes up and our high threshold timer is exceeded. So in other words, as the rain is falling, etc., we're modulating down, let's say in the teens and the 30s, 40s, something like that. We're modulating there. The Ethernet has dropped, it's came back up, and now it's blocking data after that pulse. If the link actually goes hard down, then we have to wait for first session validation timer. So if the link actually completely drops, then we actually have to have the first validation timer to actually wait. In this particular case, it's 120 seconds. It's kind of at the bottom of your screen here. Let me see if I can get that up a little bit more. There we go. So first validation setting is 120. So we use a pulse, we wait 5 seconds, we then block data after that pulse. If the session completely drops, we wait for the first session, 120 seconds. And then, as the rain stops fading, as the rain slows down, eventually our TX and RX capacity is going to go back up. And once it hits 150, then we wait 30 more seconds. So we have to stay above 150 30 more seconds before we actually enable data. Okay? Now, what this allows you to do is this allows you to, one, instantly drop your data rate, which is really, really good stuff. I mean, that is really important to be able to instantly drop your data, okay? Then, on top of that, we have the ability for us to sit there and not bring back up the link until we have this high threshold. So the AirFiber version 4 software, this is great stuff for anybody that's using it. Really good data, really good information as well. And I would highly recommend that everybody. I would not recommend everybody upgrading immediately because this software literally came out like yesterday or the day before. It's been in beta test, but I would always probably give it a week before you really upgrade and you start upgrading your software accordingly. But in this particular case, this link had this issue, is that it would fade out, and during those rain fades, we would have those issues. So, hence, we need to have that, basically have that stuff worked on. So, with that said, now let's talk about network down times, because network down times is actually really interesting. We have the ability to have network down times. So I'm actually going to go to this sheet, and I'm going to say that we were down in the past year, we were down 170 minutes of total time in this particular link. Now this is the link to the router, so there's multiple OSPF connections. So that basically says that we were down for 2.8 hours, okay, obviously 0.00 days, but our uptime was 99.9, so 3 nines, okay, and our downtime was 0.032, all right. So with that said, we have our uptime, our minutes down per day, how many minutes per month, etc. And this gives you a really good idea of what is going on with your uptime. Now, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab this other number, 562. This was the uptime for that air fiber link prior to this link, prior to this this new firmware update. Actually, it included the firmware update time, which probably took like 5-10 minutes. Okay, but this is the past year of uptime, and that particular link was down 562 minutes, roughly. Okay, plus or minus probably 10% is probably a good ideal. But that's a 99.8% uptime. Now that means we were down for 9.3 hours. Again, not a whole lot of time to be down in the grand scheme of things. 18 minutes per month, 1.5 minutes per day if you average it out. I guarantee you there was probably, I think there was one time that was out for 3 hours due to a power issue, things like that. But this gives you a good example of a air fiber 24 at 3.3 or 3.5 miles, okay, that we have had 562 minutes of downtime in the past year, and we're at 99.89% uptime. Is that good? Bad? Well, again, we have a failover link, and now with the new Air Fiber version 4 software, we even have the ability to have more capabilities than that. Okay, because we have we had 562 minutes of downtime, and that's of the Air Fiber link, not the Mimosa link, not the other links that are going down. So because of that, is 99.8% uptime good enough? That's really kind of up to you. In this particular case, the customer is very happy with this link. It works extremely well, and now with Air Fiber version 4, we definitely can reduce any downtime and reduce any issues with the network as it may be. Now, I want to bring you your attention to this sheet here, because this is actually kind of an interesting sheet. I'm going to move it up so everybody can see it. What this is, this gives us a availability percentage-wise in downtime per year, per month, and per week. So we had 99.8. So if we go back here, we had 99.89 uptime. So 99.8 uptime is 17 hours of downtime per year, 86 minutes per month, and 20 minutes per week. Is that good enough for most customers? Again, that's really up to you. But once we start getting into 3 nines and 4 nines and 5 nines, our time dramatically drops. As far as a wireless ISP, most WISPs probably try to get 3 nines or a little better. Okay, but 3 nines means you can have 8.76 hours of total downtime per year. Okay, when you go to 4 nines, it goes from basically almost 9 hours to less than an hour, 52 minutes. And that's a huge deal. That's a huge number to get to. I think most WISPs are probably focused on 3 nines. Most networks are focused on 3 nines. However, you can easily get to 4 nines, 5 nines, 5.26 minutes. Man, that's really tough. But there are networks that do that, and they are built for that. And they are built for that type of redundancy. So I just want to make sure I kind of pointed out how many minutes and hours and seconds that 4 nines and 5 nines and 6 nines. I mean, 6 nines means you're going to have 31.5 seconds of downtime in a year. That means if you're pinging, you can stop pinging for 31 seconds and then come back up and you'll still have 6 nines. That's it. Very, very, very little. And most ISPs also have to have other things such as DNS and other types of services that they have to have to make the internet run, to make the network run. So I would highly recommend that as you are working to get your 3 nines or 4 nines, etc., to understand how much difference there is between 3 and 4. Okay? I mean, 8.76 hours versus 52 minutes. Huge difference in there. So just keep that in mind. And with especially with having all the storms, we had the Hurricane Harvey that went through Houston and that area and Dallas, and then we have the new one coming up through Puerto Rico and such. Those types of numbers are not really obtainable by most WISPs. Note that most people say that does not count natural disasters, things like that. So that's up to you on that, how you wish to do that as well. But note, 562 minutes of downtime gave us a 99.89% uptime. So almost 3 nines, really, really, really close to 3 nines as well. So with that said, now we're going to go over to Mikrotik Sync. Yes. Again, this is going to be a short episode because it's just me. We are going to ask some questions on ispradio.com. If you have any questions, please feel free to type that in as well. So what is Mikrotik Sync? Well, Mikrotik Sync is kind of it is a sync protocol. It allows 2 access points or multiples of access points operating on the same channel to synchronize their AP transmit and AP receive. So I'm just going to take you straight to the Mikrotik wiki page, which basically says here is what the NV2 AP synchronization. So a couple of gotchas. One, you cannot run a B access point. You cannot run a access point. It has to be an N or an AC type radio. Okay. If it's a radio, it will not operate. Okay. 2, the access points must be on the same frequency. So what this allows us to do is to reuse the same wireless frequency on a tower or multiple towers, giving more flexibility in frequency planning. Now, when we look at that, what does that actually mean? What does that actually signify? Well, if we have, let's say, 6 Mikrotik access points on a tower, we can use 3 channels, 320 megahertz or 340 megahertz channels, and we can sync between them. And it's very easy to do this. So I'm going to put up the little wiki page that Mikrotik has. Very, very simple, very basic. Basically, we have for NV2 to sync, and note you have to be running the NV2 protocol. You will have a sync master, and you will have a sync secret. That's really all you have to do. So I'm going to go open up a NV2 access point. Here's one here. Basically, we have our TDMA frequency size, our security key, our mode is it downlink, sync master, sync slave. So normally we'd put it in sync master if this was going to be a master, or a sync slave if it was going to be a slave. Our downlink ratio, and then our sync secret. That's it. Then if you have another access point that can hear this access point on the same channel, that's the big key. It has to be on the same channel. It will share its sync secret, and if the sync secret matches, then it will adopt the mode and the downlink ratio from this access point. Now, if it is a slave, so if it is a sync slave here, it will, once it finds a master, it will synchronize. So it will transmit at the same time the master transmits. It will listen when the master listens. Then it also becomes a sync master, per se, that another sync slave could actually register to. Okay? So the whole ideal behind these is that as you add more and more and more access points especially on the same channels, they all will synchronize. And it doesn't actually have to be on the same tower. The very first thing that Mikrotik does is it has to be on the same wireless frequency as the master AP. You have to have your secret, and then the master AP will start. The master AP is enabled. The slave AP will start searching for a master AP by matching against its sync secret. Once we have that, the slave AP will start operating, and as it adopts the period size and downlink ratio from the master. In addition, as I said, the slave AP is operational, and then other slave APs can use that slave AP to sync with. It periodically checks for the NV2 secret, still matches, adapts the parameters again, etc. Now, I have varying reports, but I do have reports that this is working out in the field, etc. And it does make a difference. It does allow you to reuse channels with Mikrotik in your mode. What a lot of people don't realize is that we do have the fixed downlink percentages, and we do have the sync, master, and slave options. Now, this is on 639, 640. I mean, this is on the latest version, 640.3, the latest production version. So, with that said, this is a fairly new feature. And if you are running NV2 on like 635 or 630 or something, it is worth your time to upgrade that. And then you can set, at the very least, you can set your fixed downlink to 75/25 or whatever the ratio you want for your downlink ratio to be. That can actually drastically improve your overall access point performance just by setting that fixed downlink. But again, if you have 4 access points on the same tower, you can set 2 on the same channel, the other 2 on an opposite channel, and then you can have a sync master and a sync slave, and they will sync together. So, with that said, that's basically it. That's the easy, long, and skinny of the Mikrotik NV2 synchronization. There is no GPS. There is no special things that you have to have. It just simply communicates over the wireless protocols. And note, it does figure out how far the access point is from each other. So, the feature will synchronize the transmit and receive time of the APs on the same frequency, etc. And it will sit there and try to figure out, hey, this AP is located on another location. So it will, once the master AP is found, a slave AP will calculate the distance to the master AP, because the master AP could not be at the same location. And how nice would that be to sync across towers if you're using the same channel? Good ideal, bad ideal. Again, these are comments. This is still a fairly new feature of Mikrotik, so I couldn't sit there and tell you yet. I don't know exactly what all this does, but it is a feature that is up and running. It does work, and we need more people to test it so the people in Mikrotik can actually sit there and get that data back to them, and they can improve that protocol even more. So, alrighty. Well, with that said, I'm going to look at our ispradio.com, see if we have any comments. Does not look like it. I knew it was going to be a short show today because we didn't have any guests or anything like that. I will ask for any questions. And yeah, I don't see any other questions or comments, etc. So if you have any comments or questions about the show, you can always email us at support@ispradio.com as well. I don't have any other questions. So with that said, I'd like to wrap this session up. It's a quick one, but if you have any other questions, please email us. You can also contact Link Technologies for any type of Mikrotik support if you wish to have some help rolling out the NV2 Sync option as well. With that said, I will let everybody go, and we will close out today's episode.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.